Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, thank you for joining me once again today, and welcome back to Total War Warhammer 2. We are playing the Dark Elves, and we are playing against the Skaven, so this should be an interesting match. So, the Dark Elves, in some ways, they have a lot of similarities to the High Elves. They have a lot of the same flexibility. They have even some very identical units. They have the Reaper Bolt Throwers. The Harganeth Executioners are a lot like Swordmasters of Hoeth. Their spearmen are very similar, although lower melee defense once you count in that bonus the High Elves get from martial prowess. But they also have some things that the High Elves just don't have, so there are some important differences. In many ways, this is kind of a High Elf army built with the Dark Elf army list, but there are a couple of units that the High Elves just don't have access to. So, army list-wise, I'm going up against the Skaven, right? So I know they have ways of shutting down single powerful flyers. So I have declined to bring Malekith, or in fact a Flying Lord at all. Instead, I have brought a Dreadlord, Sword and Shield, the woman, on a horned one, or a cold one. So she's a cavalry unit. I've given her abilities. I've given her strength through spite to increase the melee attack of everyone around her. And I've given her the Shield of Grond to decrease the weapon damage of anyone fighting her. I've put her in a unit of Cold One Knights, which provide some nice anti-large. This is one of the tools that the High Elves don't have. They don't have armored anti-large cavalry. And Cold One Knights are quite powerful. The only real downside to them is that they do Rampage, which makes them very difficult to use. They're kind of a fire and forget unit. You use them like a missile. You slam them into whatever you want to kill, and then you let them go, because they're going to Rampage, and you can't use them after that. I have also brought a Cold One Chariot. Now, a Cold One Chariot looks like kind of a combination of the best factors of an Ethelmar Chariot and a Terranok Chariot. It has an armor-piercing ranged attack, which is pretty decent. It has an anti-infantry bonus that is pretty substantial, decent stats, good charge bonus. The only downside is it is slow. It's Cold One speed. It's 66. And it can Rampage, so if it gets stuck in the wrong place, which is relatively easy for the enemy to do to it because it is slow, it can Rampage and go out of control and become useless. I have brought one Reaper Bolt Thrower. Now, the interesting thing is, I believe, I'll have to check the stats, so I might be wrong on this, but I believe the Reaper Bolt Thrower is slightly shorter range than the Eagleclaw Bolt Thrower, but it also fires slightly faster and so does a little bit more damage. I'll have to double check that, so don't take that as gospel, but I believe that's true. I have a Sorceress of the Dark with no mount, just on foot. I would have brought a mount for her, but I ran out of money, honestly. But I have brought Blade Wind and Power of Darkness, as well as the Dark Star Cloak, to keep her casting more Blade Winds, because against the Skaven, with all their lightly armored infantry, Blade Wind is fantastic. So I've got that. I have got a Death Hag on the Blood Cauldron, because that's also very effective against the Skaven with that armor, not armor piercing, but anti-infantry rather, damage and the poison attacks. I've given her the Witch Brew so she can Rampage in exchange for a bunch more damage and attack power. I've given her the Fury of Cain so she can make another unit Rampage in exchange for more attack and damage. I've given her the Chill Blade. She of course has the Blood Shield of Cain and Murderous Mastery and all that. The Blood Shield of Cain is a great ability. I love that for the Blood Cauldron. My front line, I have 2 units of Dread Spears, flanking 3 units of Black Ark Corsairs, which are pretty solid against Skaven overall. I wouldn't say they're the be-all and end-all in any matchup, but against the Skaven, they're pretty good because they do have that anti-infantry bonus of 7, which makes them... They're not a match for Plague Monks, but they're also cheaper than Plague Monks, and they have enough armor that they can weather the attacks of the lesser Skaven units quite effectively. In the back, I have 1 unit of Harganeth Executioners, which are like Swordmasters, but a little worse. They do have the Blood Shield on them right now, and they have a very, very nice anti-infantry bonus of 14. In the front, as basically my anti-Doom Wheel squad, I have 2 units of Dark Riders with repeater crossbows. So they have that armor-piercing missile attack. It doesn't do a huge amount of damage, but the main value of these guys, like I said, is they're the anti-Doom Wheel squad. I am afraid of Doom Wheels from the Skaven because Doom Wheels can run roughshod over all this infantry, and I haven't brought any halberds. Not that halberds can really stop Doom Wheels, but they can at least do damage. So these guys, their job is to zone the Doom Wheel out, and if it gets too close, they follow it around and they pelt it with armor-piercing shots. And he has brought a Doom Wheel, but with the volleys from these guys can take a Doom Wheel down in pretty short order. And then way over here, just kind of as on the off chance that I get a chance to charge some artillery, I have 1 unit of Dark Riders with shields. My opponent, we'll put things in slow motion here, because things take a little bit to start up. My opponent has brought 1 Doom Wheel, He's got a front line of clan rats with shields, chevroned up a little bit for leadership. He has 2 clan rat spears on the flanks, 2 plague claw catapults, 1 unit of death globe bombardiers, 2 rat ogres for anti-large countercharging, presumably, 2 death runners, which I of course could not see at this point of the battle. His leadership is Skrulk, good old Lord Skrulk, who has brought Stand Your Ground, Vermintide, Wither, Pestilent Breath, the Aura of Pestilence, and Plague Rash, but not his damage abilities, and the Assassin. And the Assassin has brought all the assassin-y things. He's got Trophy Heads, he's got the Concealment Bombs, and Rivalhide Talisman plus Slippery. So the Assassin is a serious danger. Lord Skrulk, however, once again, this is a case of someone bringing Lord Skrulk as their lord without bringing the damage abilities. And I still don't quite understand that. I know people are doing it for monetary reasons, but I feel like if you wanted to save money and have the Lore of Plague, you could just get a Grey Seer and have the same effect for cheaper. But anyway, so I am pushing forward, because although I do have an artillery piece, and an artillery piece that I expect to do pretty well against the Skaven hordes, he has more artillery, and more powerful artillery. He's maneuvering the Doom Wheel around, so I'm sending the Dark Riders up to make it clear that I won't tolerate any funny business from the Doom Wheel. And the Dark Riders are going to come forward, set up, get a volley off. The Doom Wheel thought better of trying to attack them. He is firing his catapults into the Dark Riders, but they're not a fantastic target for that, and you can see that's about 400 damage from one volley from the Dark Riders. They're very, very solid at dealing damage to the Doom Wheel, so I'm going to slide over here, and he's just going to pull it back. He sees that that's not really going to go anywhere, so the Doom Wheel pulls back into the formation where it can't easily be shot. My infantry are moving forward. He's getting a couple kills here and there with those catapults, but nothing too devastating as of yet. He's killed 4. The catapults now are turning their fire onto my infantry line, and specifically, they're going after the Harganeth Executioners, which is a good idea. That's the perfect target for those catapults. It's a high-rent infantry unit. I am not firing with the Dark Riders because I don't want to waste shots on the clan rats. I do have limited ammunition, and it's important to save it. My chariots are hanging back for the nonce because I don't want them to get shot up too bad as they close, while the cavalry and my lord are advancing. He zoned my Dark Riders out, but because of their pressure, his Doom Wheel is over here in the middle of his formation instead of doing anything tricksy. So my Black Ark Corsairs are taking quite a bit of damage from artillery, as are the Harganeth Executioners. They've taken a lot of damage. The Doom Wheel is now coming out, but I've got the anti-large cavalry coming in, and so he turns around once again. Now my artillery is firing on the clan rats and doing pretty solid damage once again, just not this solid. Skaven artillery is very powerful, and even though Plague Claws aren't the most accurate, they do a lot of damage. I've lost 40 units already. I'm getting my Dread Spears into those clan rats. I am going to take some flank shots at the clan rats just to make sure this fight ends well for me. We're summoning some clan rats here. I'm going to charge the Black Ark Corsairs and the Death Hag into them, and then try to move the Harganeth Executioners past. Those Death Glow Bombardiers are doing very, very good damage. However, the combination of the attacked by artillery penalty and the various units attacking them has driven these clan rats' leadership low enough that they could be terrified. Over here, I get a nice Blade Wind right on those clan rats. That did exactly what I wanted to. It just sat on them and tore them to shreds. These clan rats are broken. The Doom Wheel is still waiting as the lines close in. The Harganeth Executioners are moving up, but for some reason they didn't actually attack here. They just sat here. And I had given them an attack order, which they are not... I don't know. That frustrated me a little bit, but it happened. You know, oh well. My Dark Riders back here are driving those clan rats away in combination with the shields. I just popped Murderous Mastery. My Black Ark Corsairs, they're doing okay. Because of all the damage they took on the way in, they're not doing great, but they are doing okay. We've got some Rat Ogres in here against the Cold One Chariots. My Dark Riders and my Cold One Knights and Lord are coming in against these Rat Ogres. The Dark Riders are going to switch to charging into those spears just to intercept them, just to delay them, while the Cold One Knights get into the Rat Ogres. Rat Ogres do surprisingly well against Cold One Knights because of that armor piercing, especially on the charge, but they do lose the fight after the charge is over. Send another Blade Wind back here, got into the artillery a little bit, but didn't do as much damage as I had hoped. My Black Ark Corsairs, I've popped the Fury of Cain on these ones. These ones are doing respectably. Over here, the Doom Wheel has gotten into my Harganeth Executioners and is doing a lot of damage, but my Dark Riders are on it, and they're doing a lot of damage right back. So my sorceress is just standing back here, getting hit by artillery. The Harganeth Executioners have been routed by the Doomwheel with 0 kills because they didn't actually fight at all. Very frustrating. The Cold One Chariot's doing a very solid job. Back here, the Dreadlord is finishing off a unit of Rat Ogres. My Cold One Knights rampaged, and for some reason, instead of continuing to fight the Rat Ogres, I think the Rat Ogres routed and then I just rerouted them. They charged down here to attack Lord Skrull, which is a little bit frustrating because that's not a good target for them. They do have 62 kills though, so they've been doing some work. Over here, this assassin is chasing my Dreadlord around, and the Dreadlord is just running. I don't want to fight the assassin. I would rather get into the back of this fight and bring the chariots back in. Over here, my Dark Riders are drawing this Clan Rat unit away. They do make contact, and then I order the Dark Riders to go off here and chase the Rat Ogres. Back here, the Doomwheel has been broken by the fire of the Dark Riders with repeater crossbows, who are now shooting into the Death Runners, who have charged forward and wiped out my Blackheart Corsairs. They've done quite a bit of work, but they're just taking fire that they cannot answer at this point. The Harganeth Executioners are going to charge in, get a few kills, and then get destroyed. But I've already resigned myself to them not being very effective. Another Blade Wind that kind of went off without really accomplishing much. Cold One Knights, they did okay, probably didn't pay for themselves, but they did stop that one unit of Rat Ogres pretty solid. So that was good. The Doomwheels rally, but it's not going to be able to do much. The Death Runners are almost dead. They've charged into my Sorceress, and my Sorceress is now gone forever, but oh well. Over here, the Death Hag with 81 kills, and the Chariots were fighting the Assassin and the Rat Ogres. The Rat Ogres are terrified. The Assassin is terrified. They have dropped Wither on the Death Hag, although that just wore off. I'm bringing my Dreadlord back in. He was chasing off these Clan Rat Spears. Got some more Clan Rats and Rat Ogres rallying back over here. Here comes Skrulk. Now, I'm running my Lord away from Skrulk, and that's because I haven't done my scouting. I haven't checked and noticed that he doesn't have his damage abilities. If I'd known that, I would have gone into combat with him much quicker. But since I was under the impression that he'd brought them, I was just keeping my Lord away. I'm just like, nope, I don't want any part of Lord Skrulk. Lord Skrulk can do as he pleases. I'm going to kill the rest of the army. The Doomwheel's coming in for a suicide charge, but I see it coming, and the Dark Riders with their repeater crossbows are going to turn on it any minute now. It is getting a few lightning shots off, but also the armor-piercing missiles from the Cold One Chariot are pretty good. So the Doomwheel is now routing once again, broken by the Cold One Chariot, and there goes the last volley. Doomwheel's down. So my Death Hag has routed by the power of Lord Skrulk. Over here, my Dreadlord is beating up on some Rat Ogres, and there's also some Clan Rats involved that I believe were summoned. No, those are regular Clan Rats. My artillery has just been firing this whole time, breaking Skaven infantry and keeping them broken. Here comes the Death Hag back. I'm bringing the Dark Riders up, while the Dreadlord just pulls out. With his speed buff, he's up to speed 85, which means none of these units can possibly catch him. So he's just going to pull out. Laying some fire on Lord Skrulk, just for the sake of it, just to pick away at him a little bit. It's not terribly efficient, but it's something. We've got some Clan Rat Spears coming in after me, but the Chariots are going after these Plague Claws that have reloaded themselves just in order to keep them away. Wow, they just lost 1,000 health with that charge. That's impressive. Back here, the artillery is in trouble. It's being attacked by Clan Rat Spears and a few Death Runners, so the Chariots are going to come back to save it, as are the Dark Riders, which are pulling away. Over here, the Death Hag got into a fight with the Assassin, and then Skrulk came in, but all these units are terrified. So the Death Hag has done some work by breaking that blob up. I've got the Dark Riders lined up once again. They're going to come back in, put some more shots on Skrulk. Got some Clan Rat Spears charging after them, so I'm just going to pull them away while I finish off these Clan Rat Spears. At this phase of the game, the Skaven don't have anything left to stop my cavalry and artillery. I mean, they do have a few Rat Ogres, but they're so badly damaged, so low leadership, and so slow that the Dark Riders with repeater crossbows and the artillery in combination can just kind of do as they please. You can see the Reaper Bolt Thrower has gotten 51 kills, and of course kills underestimate the effectiveness of Bolt Throwers because they spread their damage so widely across an infantry unit. So we're laying some more shots on Skrulk, just little bits of damage here and there. Not really an efficient use of ammunition, but I don't have many efficient targets for that ammunition left. I'm bringing this unit of Dread Spears that routed off early on back in. My artillery shooting into these Clan Rats, just in order to make sure they break and stay off the battlefield. Yep, they're shattered. So all that's left at this point is Skrulk, an Assassin, and these rat ogres. Over here I've got routing units. Over there's routing units. On my side, the Death Hag is routing off, but leadership 0, so might come back. The Sorceress, probably not. The Dark Sorceress is gone. But, you know, she did her work. She got a couple of good blade wins off that did some key damage early on in the fight. But I've still got the Chariot, I've still got both of my Light Cavalry, and I've still got my Dreadlord. Once again, I'm not engaging him with Lord Skrulk because I'm still worried about those damage abilities that Skrulk doesn't have. That's entirely my fault. I could have ended this a little bit more effectively. But, I don't need him at this point. My Death Hag has just rallied. I'm going to fast forward a little bit because now I'm just using up the ammunition on these Dark Riders. He can't really do anything about this. I did just see the Assassin, but the Rat Ogres are shattered. My Chariots are going to come over here, make sure those Clan Rat Spears don't come back. Now they're shattered. Now the Chariots are going to charge into the Assassin, because they're anti-infantry, and these two infantry heroes can't really stop them. Chariots can pull back. He did summon a unit of Clan Rats here, but summoned Clan Rats also can't stop cavalry. So the Chariots are going to swing back into the Lords. The Clan Rats are trying to chase my Dark Riders, and these other Dark Riders, which are out of ammunition, they're just going to charge in, sandwich the Clan Rats, do a ton of damage in a very, very short order. The Lords and Heroes are going to come in and charge the Clan Rats, drop a stand your ground, and then here Skrulk drops Wither, I believe. In a second here he's going to drop Wither. Yep, there it is, he dropped Wither, but here's the thing. Wither, I can just pull away. So his Clan Rats are broken, his Assassin is broken, and now my units are just going to run from Skrulk, so that they are not affected by Wither, because I don't need to fight him while he has Wither active. So my Dark Riders, I'm trying to pull them out. They're having some trouble. They're getting stuck a little bit. But the Spears are out. The Chariot is out. So the Wither didn't really help him much at all. And now all these units can just pile on Lord Skrulk, who, surprisingly, Lord Skrulk still has 58 leadership, which is really, really impressive. Now it's even more. Now 61. Lord Skrulk has high leadership. But now the Death Hag's going to come in, the Dread Spears, the Cold One Chariot, all going to come in. I've got lots of anti-infantry bonus here. He dropped a nice spell on those Dread Spears. I'm going to send these Dark Riders off to make sure that the Assassin doesn't come back. My Lord is still just sitting back here. I still don't want him to fight Lord Skrulk for fear of those abilities. My Reaper Bolt Throwers still have 1 round of ammunition, but they're not even firing because they don't have to. And that's the army losses that kick in, and the game is over. So, good game to my opponent. That was pretty close, actually, but it came down to cavalry advantage, really. Infantry-wise, the infantry fight, honestly, the Skaven kind of won. The Deathglow Bombardiers, they didn't get many kills, but they did a lot of damage. The artillery did quite a bit of damage, and the Death Runners did a lot of damage. That anti-armor ability is key against the heavily armored anti-infantry high elf infantry. You can see my poor executioners got 7 kills. Now a lot of that is because they didn't actually charge into combat like they should have, but still, the Death Runners shut them down pretty effectively. On my side, the heavy lifting was done by the Cold One Chariot, did a lot of damage. As did the Cold One Knights, actually. They didn't do as much damage as I wanted them to the right targets, specifically the Rat Ogres, but they did okay. They're not great, but they're okay. The Sorceress with those spells did a lot of work. The Death Hag did a lot of work. She pretty much just got rammed into the line and ran over things with her Blood Chariot, which is pretty cool. The Black Ark Corsairs, I have no complaints. They did get shut down a little bit, but then I wasn't really micromanaging them to avoid that. I was just kind of throwing them in. The Dread Spears did very well. They definitely earned their keep. And the Dark Riders with repeater crossbows did a fantastic job. These guys and the artillery provided a ranged component that the Skaven couldn't shut down and couldn't beat. With the Doom Wheel locked down by the Dark Riders' armor-piercing damage, and with the Reaper Bolt Thrower putting consistent damage on the infantry and also preventing routing infantry units from coming back, the Skaven didn't have the option of breaking, reforming, and encircling like they want to do. That's really, really key to Skaven's strategy in a matchup like this where you're against elite or more elite enemy units. You have to be able to break, fall back, regroup, come back, get surrounds, and with this much cavalry and ranged firepower running around the place, and the chariots, routing units did not really have that option. Whenever they tried to come back in, they were broken again immediately. So overall, For an early experience with the Dark Elves, I played a few other matches with them, but not many. I do definitely like Dark Elves. I definitely think they're a very high-tier faction. They have a lot of tools. They have options in every situation. They have good magic. They have good infantry. They have good cavalry. The Dark Riders with repeater crossbows are fantastic units. Armor-piercing ranged attacks on a fast light cavalry is an excellent option that not a lot of factions have. In fact, the only other faction that I can think of that has that option is the Greenskins, and that's with a Regiment of Renown, the Mogreb's Mangy Marauders. I don't think anybody else does. Maybe are Outriders armor-piercing? I never use Outriders. So maybe the Empire has it with Outriders, but that's about it. Oh, and I mean, Beastmen have the Throwing Axe Centaurs, but they're very, very short range, and they're a little more fragile, I think. Plus, way more expensive. So I think Dark Riders with repeater crossbows are fantastic units. Death Hags on the Blood Cauldron, they're great units for anti-infantry work against infantry-heavy factions. And the Bolt Throwers, they're good for the High Elves and they're good for the Dark Elves. They're not a powerful artillery piece, but they're a cheap one, and they're very, very cost-efficient. So, thank you all so much for watching. I'll be doing more Dark Elf battles along with General Mortal Empires battles as we go along. So, look forward to the next one. See you then.